A little more energy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Oh, what a relief. It is a joy to welcome everyone here to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Harford County. Our building is situated on the native lands of the Susquehanna people, and we hope to move beyond that mere acknowledgement to action that promotes greater understanding of Indigenous peoples' concerns and rights. I am Reverend Jay Brooks. My pronouns are she, her. Leading the service with me today are Worship Associate Bess Hutt, our Director of Faith Formation, Jen Blosser, who will be out here in a minute, and at the piano, the amazing Brenna Kupperman.
We gather each Sunday morning, online and on site, to share in life's meaning, grow in care and community, and open our hearts and minds to the sacred truth known by many names.
We gather in community to restore the balance of our spirits, to celebrate the joys of life, and find the strength to meet our sorrows. And in the earliest meaning of the word worship, to consider ideas that are worthy of our time and attention.
Unitarian Universalism is a religious tradition that values diversity and embraces the wisdom of all faiths. We use science, reason, and the gifts of the Spirit to explore life's mystery and meaning.
In this tradition, we know that people need not think alike to love alike.
Whatever your heritage, however your history, and whomever you love, you are welcome here.
Today, we consider the invitation that life offers us every day, an invitation to be fully present to all the possibilities in our lives. At this moment, the sound of the bell and the music of the song, If Not Now, invite us to center ourselves as we enter into a time of worship.
If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. I see sorrow and trouble in this land. Although there will be struggle, we'll make the change we can. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when. I may never see the promised land. I may never see the promised land. And yet we'll take the journey, we'll walk it hand in hand. If not now, tell me when. We'll work until it's done. Every daughter, every son, every soul that ever longed for something better, something brighter. And it will take a change of heart for this to mend. It will take a change of heart for this to mend. but miracles do happen every shining now and then. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. If not now, tell me when. We may never see this moment or place and time again. If not now, tell me when.
Thank you, Brenna. Each Sunday, we light the chalice of our religious heritage. We do this for our ancestors, who taught us through their various religious traditions and by their actions for justice and hope. We do this for our children, who are learning the traditions we teach and who learn more from our actions than from our words. We do this for ourselves, so that we are inspired to remember our beginnings, reflect on who we are now, and spread our wings as we understand who we seek to become.
Our call to worship this morning is by Maya Angelou, and it's not actually from On the Pulse of the Morning, as it says in the printed order of service, but it's from her poem, The Million Man March. And you need to help me with this, because when I say clap hands, I want you to go. Let's try it. Clap hands. Perfect. Wow, what a group of fast learners. So, I say, clap hands, and let's come together in this meeting ground. I say, clap hands, and let's deal with each other with love. I say, clap hands, and let us get from the low road of indifference. Clap hands. Let us come together and reveal our spirits. Clap hands. Let us come together and reveal our hearts. You can clap with the next song, which is number 118 in the Gray Hymnal, This Little Light of Mine. And it's really simple. So if you can put the hymnal down and figure out when to clap, look for Brenna for signals, then we can rise or remain seated, whichever is most comfortable for you, and there will be words on the screen.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Ooh, good morning. Really here now. Today I have a story for you from two of my most favoritist and most beloved characters, Frog and Toad. Toad was sitting on his front porch. Frog came along and said, "What is the matter, Toad? You are looking sad." Toad said, "Yes, this is my sad time of day. It is the time where I wait for the mail to come. It always makes me very unhappy." "Why is that?" "Because I never get any mail." "Not ever?" "No, never. No one has ever sent me a letter. Every day my mailbox is empty. That is why waiting for the mail is a sad time for me." Frog and Toad sat on the porch, feeling sad together. Then Frog said, "I have to go home now, Toad. There is something that I must do." Frog hurried home. He found a pencil and a piece of paper. He wrote on the paper. He put the paper in an envelope. On the envelope, he wrote, "A letter for Toad." Frog ran out of his house. He saw a snail that he knew. "Snail, please take this letter to Toad's house and put it in his mailbox." The snail said, "Sure, right away." Then Frog ran back to Toad's house. Toad was in bed taking a nap. "Toad, I think you should get up and wait for the mail some more." Toad sighed. "No, I am tired of waiting for the mail." Frog looked out of his window at the Toad's mailbox. The snail wasn't there yet. Frog said, "Toad, you never know when someone may send you a letter." Toad moaned, No, I do not think anyone will ever send me a letter." Frog looked out of the window. The snail was not there yet. "But Toad, someone may send you a letter today." "Don't be silly. No one has ever sent me a letter before, and no one will send me a letter today." Frog looked out the window, and the snail was still not there. Toad said, "Frog, why do you keep looking out of the window?" Frog replied, "Because now I am waiting for the mail." Toad groaned, "But there will not be any." Frog said, "Oh, yes, there will, because I have sent you a letter." "You have? What did you write in the letter?" "I wrote, 'Dear Toad, I'm glad that you are my best friend, your best friend, Frog.'" "Oh," said Toad, "that makes a very good letter." Then Frog and Toad went out onto the front porch to wait for the mail. They sat there, feeling happy. Frog and Toad waited a long time. 4 days later, the snail got to Toad's house and gave him the letter from Frog. Toad was delighted. "My letter came. I am so very pleased."
Each Sunday, we invite those gathered here to support the mission of this congregation by offering a financial contribution. With love at the center, members here care for one another and extend that care into the wider community through actions for equity and justice, which, no matter how small, work towards the transformation of our world. This fellowship intentionally welcomes the pluralism of theological beliefs as members seek to learn and grow. Financial contributions allow this congregation to reach out to all who seek a life-affirming message of love and hope. If you're online, click the link in the Zoom chat to contribute. If you're on site, you may place a donation in the basket or use your device to find the donate link at uufhc.net. Whatever your method of giving you choose, your generosity helps to grow a healthier and more joyful UUFHC and UU community. And in keeping with our religious heritage, to draw the circle of love and justice a little bit wider.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. I think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Yeah, it's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
Well, there we are. In this worship service that invites us to lean even more deeply into our mission as Unitarian Universalists, we renew our commitment as a community to respond out of deep care for one another. Now is the time to share briefly a joy, a sorrow, a gratitude, something you carry deeply within your heart. If you're on site in the sanctuary, please come forward and speak into the microphone while Bess lights a candle. If you're on Zoom, put in the chat the message you'd like to share, and Brenna will read it as Bess lights a candle. A few gentle reminders. This is not a time for announcements or politics. Please say your first name. Please share from your heart and from your own experience. And be mindful not to share someone else's experience unless you have their express permission to do so. Would anyone like to share?
We've wanted to be trusty and true, but feathers fell from our wing. We've wanted to be worthy of you, but weather rained on our dreams, and we can't take back what is done, what is past. So fellas, Lay down your fears, 'cause we can take back what is done, what is past. So let us start from here. 'Cause we never wanted to be lusty or lewd, nor tethered to prudish strings. Never wanted to be jealously tuned, nor withered to ugly things. And we can't take back what is done, what is past. So fellas, lay down your spears, 'cause we can't take back what is done, what is past. So let us start from here. And if all that you are is not all you desire, then come. Come, come along, come with fear, come with love, come however you are. Just come, come along, come with friends, come with foes, come however you are. Just come, come along, come with me, and then let go. Come however you are. Just come, come along, come so carefully close. Come however you are. Just come along, come with sorrows and songs. Come however you are. Just come.
This reading is entitled Love After Love by Derek Walcott. The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself, arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another who knows you by heart.
I moved to this area a year ago, and I'm still unpacking boxes. The box I opened this week had photo albums, including one my mother put together when I was a small child. Of course, I had to stop and look through it. That's one of life's invitations that makes it so difficult to go through all the boxes. One photo caught me, joggled a memory on the scent of marigolds. It was an image of me at about 3 years old, sitting beside a flower bed, picking apart a marigold. The silk of the flower petals in my hands, the faint pressure of its tiny seeds against my fingers, and the perfume of marigolds in the warm summer sun flooded through me. From my earliest childhood, I have felt and answered life's invitations to explore the natural world. Seeing that photo was like greeting myself arriving at my own door, remembering with elation the joy of discovery first experienced so long ago. Some of those discoveries have not been as serene as sitting amongst the marigolds. The beauty of the Boundary Waters canoe wilderness has long captured my imagination. It's more than 1 million acres of pristine forests and lakes in northern Minnesota along the Canadian border. The granite there is part of the Earth's bedrock. It's called the Canadian Shield, and it's the southernmost extent of the vast Precambrian rock in existence for billions of years. It's one of a handful of places on Earth where the planet's original crust still remains. There are no roads. Access is limited to protect the land and the wildlife. Over most of the area, no motorized craft are allowed. Canoes, kayaks, hikers, and not many of them. With my faithful companion, a calm and obedient dog who willingly settled into the canoe for her first voyage, I prepared to set off from the sandy shoreline. I pushed the boat out and began to paddle, and then I was wet. Wet from head to toe because the calm and obedient dog had launched herself from the canoe to escape to dry land. I was wet because the canoe had turned completely upside down, drenching me and all my stuff in the cool waters of Saganaga Lake. When the dog abandoned ship, we'd only been a few yards from shore. So I was able to get the canoe upright, drain the water, restore the packs. With some effort, I was even able to persuade the reluctant dog to come aboard again, and this time to remain aboard. But the delay had placed us in a dangerous situation. A storm was building fast, and we were far from a designated campsite. I was already soaking wet. Behind me, storm clouds gathered, lightning flickered, and ominous thunder growled. The wind picked up. My map guided me to the nearest campsites. The first 2 locations on opposite ends of a large island were occupied. The next was some distance away, across a wide swath of lake with no protection from the wind. We started across. The canoe rocked unpredictably. The dog shifted, lie down, and the dog settled but whined. I felt like whining too. Incipient panic began rising in me, a physical sensation of imminent danger. I've been able to handle capsizing near the shore, but if it happened in the deep waters of mid-lake, there was a real risk of, well, death. No one was around. No one was within hailing distance. Panic would only make the situation more dangerous. So I breathed deeply, seeking to relax the tension in my body and calm my mind. I reminded myself, somewhat successfully, that I knew how to handle the canoe in wind and waves, and the panic ebbed at least to the point where my fear was no longer in charge. And so I paddled steadily across what seemed like a vast gulf to the next island. There was a vacant campsite right where the exposed granite of the Canadian Shield inclined gently down to the water's edge. The wind battered against the waves. The wind battered the waves against the rock as I landed. The curving granite slab was slick and steeper than it looked. One slip and I could be alone with a badly sprained ankle or worse. I concentrated on the task. There was no other way to keep myself safe. And somehow, before the storm broke, the tent was up. The wind had dried my clothes, and the dog and I celebrated the rain, thunder, and lightning from the snug interior of our little refuge. Solo camping in the wilderness is a risky business, but I keep getting these invitations from life to do it. And in the sunlight of the next morning, I reflected on the dangers: wind and water, lightning strikes, bears. Yes, my food, to foil the bears, my food was hung from a branch of a tall tree. But there was also injury, illness, equipment failure. These risks are minor at home. Here, they weren't. But I had come through some dangers already, and whatever toils and snares might lie ahead, there was nothing I could do to prevent them. I was as prepared as I could be, and that would have to be enough. Although, I must admit, when I started making breakfast, I encountered the greatest challenge I was to face in that wilderness. I had forgotten to pack the coffee. Laughing at myself, I reminded myself out loud, the absence of coffee is not life-threatening. Throughout the week, as I swam in the crystal waters, soaked up sunshine, and sang without self-consciousness, I knew myself safely landed and my drinking water thoroughly boiled. The slings and arrows of ordinary life, for many of us here in America, seem mere phantoms once we've been in the presence of real danger. Real physical risk can be like a light switch. Flip it and light tames the midnight monsters under the bed. Real danger can clarify how much energy we expend defending ourselves against things with no real power to harm. It's not just danger, but real illness, real injury, real losses can help to make all those other things seem less important. So, are the human reflexes that serve us so well in the wilderness betrayers in civilization? Do these long ago evolved reflexes encourage us to interpret all risks as life-threatening danger, all setbacks as the beginning of the end? It's necessary to find a way to step out of the daily routine and find perspective. It needn't be actual danger, but the wilderness, I've found, has silence and solace that will suffice. And life invites us to find those moments of solace. For me, closest to nature reminds me that I'm connected to all life on Earth, that we humans, too, are linked through billions of years to that solid Precambrian rock. One day I lay in the sunlight on warm granite, gazing at the lake. A group of juvenile loons, like teenagers hanging out, joined me, chattering and posing, They ignored me completely, also like teenagers. Watching the loons frolic on the water, a kind of gratitude began to sing in me. The gently moving air and the rippling water chanted a benison. The rock of the Canadian Shield was the earth's shrine to the spirit of life. The stars, hidden in the daylight, rang like bells. But it's not possible to stay in the wilderness or in any safe harbor or solitude or refuge. The very elements of those things, those places that sing in the heart, eventually impose their own price. So for a time only, I rested there, as Wendell Berry says, in the grace of the world. And when I came out of the wilderness on that trip, it was to camp along the shores of West Bearskin Lake at the edge of the Boundary Waters. There was no Precambrian rock, only a wooden dock built by the YMCA camp that my son was attending. And there I answered a different kind of invitation. An invitation, I discovered, into community. Each day, I went to the camp to assist as a volunteer in the building of a wooden canoe. Now, some of you may have seen these gracious wooden beauties on the water. They're made of 1-inch wide strips of cedar, glued painstakingly together over the frame of the boat. Next, they're sanded smooth. Then the cedar strips are sealed using light coats of transparent fiberglass and varnish. The grain of the wood, limned by the regular striping of the joined cedar strips, seems to glow in the sunlight. At the canoe's greatest length, a single cedar strip isn't long enough. It's necessary to join 2 strips together with either, okay, this is a little technical, with either a butt joint or a feather joint. The butt joint, which has squared ends that are placed against each other, is easier for the amateur. And these are the kinds of joints I was first taught to make. Later, I learned to cut diagonals at the end of each strip to make the almost invisible feather joint, which I thought was well worth the extra effort. At the end of my stay, I ran my hand over the finely sanded cedar of the canoe's completed shell. The canoe master, Andrew Alt, stood beside me as we talked about the difficult places, the flaws. There was the indentation where someone had been a little too enthusiastic with the belt sander. There were gaps where the join hadn't been clamped properly. There was my own mistake, embedded in the canoe for its lifetime, a join that hadn't quite met and that had been filled with a sliver of cedar. Amateurish mistakes, I regretted out loud. I wish I had used feather joints from the beginning. Andrew, with a wisdom beyond his 20 years, said, "It doesn't matter. It still works. It's still beautiful. All these little mistakes, they show that the canoe is the work of many hands, volunteers who gave their time and energy to contribute something to this community." Then he said, "Once this baby takes to the water, campers will use it for decades. It may not have the artistry of a museum piece, but it's not a museum piece. It's meant to be used, and the way it's made, each little flaw, makes this canoe a symbol of our community." I ran my finger over the tiny bit of cedar that filled in the first joint I had constructed. I couldn't feel the rough edge now that it was sanded, and thanks to the young canoe master, I saw it from a different perspective. A flaw, but not life-threatening. Instead, a mark of many hands, including mine, and not mine alone. I smiled up at Andrew, and he said, "We're not building boats, we're building community." Whoever we are, and wherever we may be, life invites us to explore, but also invites us to find sanctuary. Now, I want to say that sometimes we can get discouraged because the invitations especially the ones to sanctuary, may not seem to be forthcoming. And so during times when life is like that, it's important to remember that the invitation may be in a letter that's being delivered by snail mail. Our best sanctuary is neither wilderness nor an urban bunker. Our best sanctuary is community, a community we call our own, in which we participate, that we build together with our own hands. And that's what we do here. This community is a sanctuary and a bulwark against dangers. It's a living invitation to be part of community and to extend the values of this community out into the world. And this community is a bulwark against dangers, not because it's a safe haven, or not merely because of that. It is, of course, but it's a sanctuary, a bulwark, because we take part in its creation. We might be lost or searching when we arrive. Here we can find ourselves. We discover meaning and purpose, and together our many hands build something that works. It may not be a museum piece. Its flaws may be visible, but that doesn't matter. It still works. Think about the gifts that each of you brings to this community, the gifts you bring. If you look at your order of service, or I'm going to ask our AV volunteers to put the slide up, you'll see a visual image of the gifts that you bring to this community. This word cloud is made from the words that you wrote on the raindrops in our September 8th service. The raindrops we put up on the rainbow. And the way a word cloud works is that the words that are repeated most often show up as the largest words in the word cloud. So look at that. The gifts you bring. Love at the center. How about that? Hope and kindness. And you see also in large letters, smaller than those three, but friendship and compassion. So, and somewhere in there someone wrote me. So yes, you bring yourselves. You do. You bring your whole selves. You bring your whole selves. And so even though what we create together may have a few flaws, it's a community and a sanctuary because we create it together. We create purpose for our lives. We create meaning by living our values in the world. This place helps us do that. We help each other do that. And because we have taken part, because we have laid on our hands and turned our minds and hearts to a common purpose, we have sanctuary here. This is a safe harbor. And as well, we have a vessel that carries us out beyond ourselves. If life invites us into the wilderness or to any other experience where we learn, where we hear life sing, when we return, we bring that learning and that music with us. In community, each person's music resonates and harmonizes with the music of others. We discover something in community that lets us keep the song of life alive in our hearts. And when we go out into that different kind of wilderness that is the human world, from this community, we take with us the song of life to comfort, to support, to heal, to restore. Life invites us again and again into experiences that challenge and change us again and again and again. We answer life's invitation to wonder, discover, and create. Life's invitation to shine. And now let's sing hymn number 205 with slightly different words for the first 3 verses, and the words will be on the screen. The last verse is the traditional verse by John Newton. It's the tune of Amazing Grace. So please rise or remain seated as is comfortable for you. And there we go.
We welcome all who enter here throughout the human race. The fabric of community is shaped by acts of grace. Respect for all surrounds this space. The softest voice is heard. Here is a place for doubt and faith without a stifling word. We journey with our hearts and minds, embracing all who search with justice as our common goal. We are the open church. Through many trials, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Twas grace hath brought us safe thus far, and grace shall lead us home.
Please be seated. And for our benediction, I challenge you again to respond to the phrase, clap hands with, very good, for the quiet moments of peace we find in this loving religious community, for the voices here that celebrate when we come into our own power. Clap hands. For the eyes that light up and the smiles that greet us when we enter this sanctuary, for the circle of friends we find here. Clap hands. For life's invitations, especially the ones to which we answer yes. Clap hands. For the love and hope we bring to the world, for the way we let our light shine. Clap hands. Clap hands. Clap hands. And now we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into all the world.
Clearing webs from a hovel, blistered hand on the handle of a shovel. I've been digging too deep, I always do. I see my face on the surface, I look a lot like Narcissus. Dark abyss of an emptiness, standing on the edge of a drowning blue. Look behind my ears for the green, even my sweat smells clean. Glare off the white hurts my eyes. Gotta get out of bed, get a hammer and a nail, learn how to use my hands. Not just my head, I think myself into jail. Now I know a refuge never grows from a chin and a hand and a thoughtful pose. Gotta tend the earth if you wanna rise. Had a lot of good intentions, sit around for 50 years and then collect a pension. Started seeing the road to hell and just where it starts. But my life is more than a vision. The sweetest part is acting after making a decision. Started seeing the whole as the sum of its parts. I look behind my ears for the green. Even my sweat smells clean. Glare off the white hurts my eyes. Gotta get out of bed, get a hammer and a nail. Learn how to use my hands. Not just my head, I'll think myself into jail. Now I know a refuge never grows from a chin and a hand and a thoughtful pose. Gotta tend the earth if you wanna rise. My life is part of the global life. I'd found myself becoming more immobile, and I think a little girl in the world can't do anything. A destination, my community, and a street person, my responsibility. If I have a care in the world, I have a gift to bring. I have a gift to bring. I look behind my ears for the green. Even my sweat smells clean. Glare off the white hurts my eyes. Gotta get out of bed, get a hammer and a nail. Learn how to use my hands. Not just my head, I think myself into jail. Now I know a refuge never grows from a chin and a hand and a thoughtful pose. Gotta tend the earth if you wanna rise.
Wow. Everyone who is on site this morning, especially newcomers, please stay after the service for refreshments, conversation, and to look over the many invitations in our first ever project fair. But before everyone starts moving, we have a few announcements.
The fall lineup of programs for adults is available in the most recent News Bites email, on our website, and in a paper version available in the lobby. These many lifelong learning opportunities encourage personal and spiritual growth, and I encourage you to check them out today.
And in a moment, we'll set up tables, if this is an invitation to people volunteer to help do that. So we'll set up tables so that the teams and groups that are proposing the various projects will have a place to show what's available, what invitations are open to you. This fellowship's members and friends are engaged in many interesting and useful projects. And to quote the Indigo Girls, I have a gift to bring. Everyone here has a gift to bring, and it's possible to bring those gifts to one or more of these great projects that are designed to only take a couple of hours, one or two maybe. So browse the selections, talk with the creators, and sign up for one or more that catches your eye, and enjoy the refreshments.
If you're participating online, unfortunately, you'll have to bring your own refreshments, but our wonderful tech volunteers will put a link in the chat so that you can see the invitations awaiting you in the project fair.
The fair itself is like a taste of the fellowship, a chance to see and sample some of the great activities that engage mind, body, and spirit. And the actual food will be awesome too. You're invited. And that's it. Have fun.